Basically, I think that Europe is on the crossroads. All this volatility in the world might work as a wake-up call also for Europe. And that's interesting because it can speed up the reforms we are conscious we have to implement. The way I see it is basically we have a lot of complexity on the world level, so the challenges are huge and cannot be approached by a single region. And that's goes without saying by a single country. There's a sense of urgency that's positive for change, because the name of the game we are facing is change, whether one way or another. And there's a perception of multi-dependency. Now, and all these convenes into historic times. There's a change of cycle, even for mankind and for economies and for governments. And we can either go two ways. One is the direction, the avenue of, if you want, fragmentation, transactional approach, and you'll enter into a reciprocity deal. The other way, which I believe it's the best case and it's positive for Europe, is either if we go for collaborative, but it calls for creativity and for bold reforms. And just ending up these initial remarks, in Europe, it's all about deregulation. Mm-hmm. It's all about getting back to basics from where you extract sustainable growth. And you extract sustainable growth through innovation, through scale, through agility, through less bureaucracy, through less taxes, through less tariffs. And that, I think, the fact that you have a new European Commission, you have an existential quest for the meaning of our alliance, might open a window of a new beginning in which Europe wants to integrate, and namely with other regions. GCC is a case, as well as namely for Portuguese economy, Africa and Latin America.
Okay. Dr. Zilvi, I mean, UAE today is not only a regional power, economic power, but it's also emerging as a global economic power. You know, you're investing big time in Africa, if I understand, and South Asia, and also looking into Eurasia in the big way. How does, I mean, you know, economic alliances in this fit into UAE's larger broad economic footprints? Because in 2023, UAE also joined BRICS. How do you see this? It will help UAE's spread the goodwill and boost the global and the regional economy.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhry, and it's a real pleasure to have my friend Pedro here with us. When it comes to global alliances and the UAE international economic policy and diplomacy, diversity has been always a key aspect of the whole direction of our international engagements, trade relations, as well as investments. If you look at the history, and I'm going to quote what my colleague, His Excellency Mohammed Grigawi, said earlier, if you don't learn from the history, we will not move on. I will not be able as well to sort out our today's issue. For the last 100 years, globalization has playing a major role, but globalization has been depending on regional groups and regional alliances. And what do we mean by regional alliances? It means that removing most of the issues that His Excellency Pedro was talking about, the tariffs, non-trade barriers, taxes, smoothing the process, less bureaucracy, etc. And from there, the whole globalization started building those blocks with each other. So we had that excellent growth globally. Now, coming back to the last 15 years experience of the regional blocks, economic blocks globally, they start working among themselves and harming the growth and the engagement with the others. saying that, looking at their blocks as the only block which should only, they have to maintain their own relations. And it slowed down many of the potential engagements globally. Now, after COVID, things has been changing. And even for us in the UAE, it has been there even before that, because you can't predict how things are moving by slowness within economic groups and economic blocks, not responding to the global needs, not learning from the best practices. So you have to start building these economic alliances. So what we did, we start shifting the investments. It's not only the one side of the whole global that attracts our investments. We have to diversify. There is a high risk, but there is a high revenue from those investments. Africa is one of the examples. Second one, and the most important thing when it comes to economic alliances, we start building alliances that is suiting our own interests without constraining us and confining the movements and the engagements that we're doing. BRICS is one of them. What is the added value of BRICS? Away from politics, it's all about economy. Those nations and the member states are going to dominate most of the growth 25 years from now. Why don't we part of this? We don't need to get involved in the geopolitics, because geopolitics has already the multilateralism which is tackling that. And if they're not moving there, why we're bringing the issues in those new economic alliances? Second thing, the alliances is becoming more based on mutual interest. Does not mean that me and Pedro that we agree on everything, but there is a common understanding, common interest between us. And we have to work on that common interest between both of us. And from there, you start building the network that you're doing based on the interest and mutual interest between you and different nations. Third one, which is as well we see as a critical point, how many superpower and poles and polars around the world? There are four or five. We're talking about US, EU, China, India, and to a certain extent ASEAN. The rest of the world has more than 190 nations. Those nations can create another bloc and work together. While we're just keeping our focus on the 4 or 5 superpower which is fighting against each other. So from there, the new economic alliances is happening because of the mutual interest, because of the potential, and because of the growth that is going to be brought from those economic alliances.
So, as a follow-up to that, if I may ask you, Dr. Zewde, that so are you saying that is referring to the enormous potential of the global South countries, right? That they should have a kind of create a sort of loose network and focus on that to boost the economy, particularly in the post-COVID period.
See, absolutely. When it comes to global South, there is a huge potential. But I don't want to ignore many of the global North nations. And I can pick easily some of the nations. Canada, for example, Australia, New Zealand. They're not part of the superpower. Sure. And they're very easy to have an alliance with those nations. Right. So we should not constrain ourselves to a certain direction, because at the end of the day, we don't have the full capacity. We don't have the full technology. We don't have the historical know-how. We have to bring everyone on board who has this shared mindsets that we have. Otherwise, things will not move. When you talk to certain people, they always try to take you to a certain direction. But that direction does not mean you will have it all. You have to have an integration with like-minded nations in the areas and the topics that are an interest for you. And from there, you build your complex network of global economic alliance.
Minister, I mean, you talked about bureaucracy, right? I mean, when I talk to people in the government of India, they talk a lot about the European Union bureaucracy, and which is also kind of delaying the FTA with India, between you and India. But I'm just giving an example. How do we break down this? And you were signaling that something new, because Portugal has played a very important role in the European Union so how does we reduce the bureaucracy in terms of and it's essentially European Union is an economic project, right? I mean, and how can it be like maybe a little bit like ASEAN or maybe like GCC, which is more cohesive in that way? And I mean in terms with the outside.
let me kindly disagree in the fact that Europe is more bureaucratic. I guess it's really a challenge at world level. You have bubbles that are more agile, but what I hear from investors that are connected and exposed to the several markets, it is that one of the main challenges is tackling red tape. On that, I guess we can agree. And by the way, basically, what I see is that if you take politics out of the agenda, you have, without being romantic, people want to connect. The economies need to connect. You have so long value chains nowadays. The international trade, 50%, it's about business to business. It's about components. You cannot just untangle it. You cannot plug off the world economy. Namely, when we are facing huge challenges, climate extreme events, population displacement, cybersecurity threats, you name it, and then go on and on and on. So, at the end of the day, it's all a race, either into a common understanding and a level playing field based on fairness, based on respect for each culture, removing the infantilization of the discussion all over the world on politics. And maybe when you get into that, you have the key to get, again, people committed with their leaderships. If you take all this broad picture, you have also one main challenge in governance nowadays, in my point of view, is that the objectives, the impact, the results take time, and they must be extracted out of very complex systems. Namely, the layers that you have deployed of bureaucracy, each one of them makes sense on a standalone, but one day we wake up, not only in Europe, all over the world, and there are so many, it's such a labyrinth, there are so many layers for an investor to get things done, to move on, to create, that people are starting to look forward where are the growth speedy models. And what I hear, even on this visit of mine, and once again, congratulations, it's one of these summits are of extreme importance for us all. It's networking, it's exchange of ideas, it's enabling exchange of views. And if we get to the main roles, the main drivers of what we in Europe want to achieve, if you take Draghi report, if you take Letta's report, if you take nowadays the compass for competitiveness, if you take the Green Deal, at the end of the day, we all come to one special challenge for us, action plan. It's time to go from words, from purpose, into execution in Europe, namely. And I do believe that with this new Commission, with this focus on changing the game, because we can be quite innovative, we can be quite a hub, a safe harbor for talent attraction, we can be a bridge between continents, regions, markets. If we find our own way, and I believe we are on the brink of that, then we can reconnect with the world. And let me use my friend's expression, plasticity. You have to find out a blending between identity and cooperation, between execution and strategy. Life is all about balance and respect.
If you allow me, Mr. Chaudhry, I want to comment here because I want to give this example. The old economic blocks regarding regardless if it's the EU, Mercosur, GCC, and some other economic blocs. They're having an issue, and the issue is that the legislator, they don't talk to the implementer, they don't talk to the business people.
Right.
And not only that, the centralization which they built, it's killed the business in the member states itself. We have very excellent model here in the UAE. We're seven emirates, but we at the federal level, we don't over-regulate. We just give the general guidelines for this, and we keep the different models in the 7 emirates to implement and do whatever they want based on the best practices. And the agility and the efficiency that is happening is unbelievable. If we are taking that model in a small nation, as a UAE, and apply it in a bigger group, we're going to outperform. But we have to learn from the challenges, the mistakes that happen in those economic blocks, and we should not replicate it in any new economic blocks. Now, His Excellency mentioned the businesses. Business is going to be driving most of the investments. And without giving them the right ecosystem, and without us as a teams, regardless of governments, legislators, and implementers, we don't talk to each other, we will not be able to assist and facilitate the business movements and implementation of their projects.
Dr. Silvi, I would like to now talk about a little bit of the SIPA framework. How does these have enhanced collaboration or can enhance collaboration between countries in the different regions?
SIPA is 3 years old as a project, and we outperform. We completed 25 agreements in less than 3 years, which is historically has not been done.
Absolutely.
And we did it with nations that everyone questioned that we're going to conclude with, including India, Indonesia, etc. But the minute that you put only your vision is trade and investments and economy, everyone will start moving. Right. The minute that you bring different factors into the table, everyone will back off and say, we're not interested. Right. Why some of the agreements with the EU, for example, is taking 27 years and it's not moving? Why agreements between different blocs is taking 25 years and more than 20 years? Because we will start bringing non-trade and non-economic factors into the topic. Now, the 25 agreements which we're having, it's all with emerging economies and small nations, and we're building our own networks. What is the consequences? It's not only about trade, it's about investment, it's about companies expanding, it's about movement of people, movement of technology, and the result is amazing so far. Last year, we had an excellent growth in our international foreign trade non-oil. We exceeded the global average of growth by 7 times. The growth was 14.6%. The global trade in goods growth was almost 2%. So it shows what is the potential, how such a framework can boost the bilateral trade between us and the rest of the world. With India itself, the growth was almost more than 28%. Right. With one nation. Right. Imagine how is that with many other countries. With Georgia, the growth was almost 56%. Right. With Turkey is around 12%. And we can name the nations when it comes to bilateral trade. The other thing, the flow of investment is going. We're even monitoring the number of companies that is opening to attract those markets. The results is phenomenal. So we're going to continue with the expansion, and we're going to continue going against what is happening globally now with the tariffs and geopolitical affecting the businesses, because we don't believe in such measures.
He also spoke about, Dr. Zawji spoke about not to bracket or put countries like, in simple bracket, whether he's in south or north or certain, it hits as with collaboration in a sense. How do you think, countries from global north, if I say, or countries from, how could for global good, how could alliances be formed, partnership be formed between countries which had probably developed earlier because of various reasons, scientific temperament and all, and emerging economies, or already like UAE. So how could this partnership or marriage, if I can say, we are all looking for that, between North and the South?
I would say change the mindset. Once again, let the companies breathe, let the investment fly. Take off the artificial barriers that are blocking global investments. Change the mindset. nowadays, it's not for countries to choose which business investors they have. It's for companies to choose in which countries they will invest. I'm a profound admirer of what the sovereign funds, the global companies out of UAE that I find here. Very pragmatic, very professional, very analytical, and with a worldview. And a sense of the strategic clusters, the technology driver, the DNA, the metamorphosis that's going on the world level energy cluster, and so on and so on and so on. And then what the investment, my perception and the investments that we have in Portugal from the region, what they go for scalability. They go for innovation, for expertise, for deep strategy, and they'll go for access for markets. So you don't have to look very far away. Just replicate what I see happening here. It's a good world case because it's a blending between tradition and the future, between science and entrepreneurship, between governments and private sector. By the way, that's the only way ahead, private-public partnerships. We have to reinvent them. And then we'll have to get back to the drawing room on the world institutions and World Trade Organization and so on and so on. We have to redesign the architecture for a new world. And what is that new world saying us beyond the clouds of the conflicts and the coupling and so on? It is saying that it's urgent to sort out a way of sustainable growth. You don't get there by yourself. Peace is a key for growth, and growth is a key for equilibrium, for humanity. So this is not romantic. This is the only roadmap into the future. And our generation is called to rise up for these challenges because, for example, through AI, whether it's a new technology, whether it's the seed for an hybrid reality or not species, but things will accelerate quantumly in the next years, not decades, and we don't have any more time to lose after so many millennials of history. And you know that when you free innovation, creativity, entrepreneurship, initiative, you respect the individual, namely if it works for the collectivity, you get there. If you deny this, you don't stay where you are. It's either you go up or you go down. And so basically, at the end of the day, the diagnosis is done in the world. It's all about the courage to implement, the courage of execution, and get back hope for the people and for the economies.
Do you agree? I mean, or
I totally agree. Well, if we really want to push the economic investments, trade, we have to understand the language. We have to be very transparent, and we should ensure that the ecosystem is built around the flexibility to those business people to do whatever they want without us disturbing their businesses. And I'm sure the company which His Excellency was talking about here in UAE, they haven't met with us, they haven't been engaged with us. They just like the ecosystem, and from there they flourish. If we ensure that is available to the business people, they don't need anything else. They don't need money. They don't need the support. They just want to make sure that there is an ecosystem for them to flourish, and from there they can go and grow their businesses. Well, when it comes to the international alliances and international engagements, partnerships, we meet many of the officials who thinks that they know their markets much more than their private sector.
Right.
And we have to ensure that there is a consultation and a direct engagement with the right private sector in different regions so we can tap into the market. Same thing here with the private sector. If we don't ensure that they don't talk directly to the right people wherever they want to invest, regardless if they're choosing certain countries, etc., we will not be able to ensure that the success of their investments globally. The last point from my side is we, as governments, we have to ensure that we are laying out the frameworks and we keep it to the private sector as well to flourish.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zebi. Thank you, Dr. Pedro. Thank you so much. We have run out of time. Thank you.